Welcome, guys, to the Dreaming in Color podcast. I am your host, Tahirah Banks Webster.
And I am your co host, Gino Webster.
Yeah, man. Welcome back to anybody that has been with us before. If you tuned into every episode, thank you. If this is your first time, welcome. Like, we're so happy to have you here. Dreaming in Color is a long time coming. It's a podcast that is really for people who want to trade a black and white life for one that is rich, one that is bold, one that is colorful. It's beautiful. It is everything they could ever hope or imagine. And Gino and I, we are partners in business and in life. And we've been doing this for about 10 years now. We've been in business for 10 years, that is. And we spent the past decade building our business to some success. We've had some pretty good success over the past few years, right? And
Yes,
right now
we
we're on a
are.
mission to create a future where anybody, regardless of their background, can not only pursue their boldest dreams, but they can access the ideas and the resources, the people they need to make those dreams a reality. So whatever those dreams are, we're here to share our experiences, our lessons, the journeys. Today is really a bit more motivation. If I can be honest, it's short, it's sweet, it's motivation, and it's a lot of my own personal musings. I'll give that disclaimer, but it's an interesting conversation because I think we all know it. We've heard some version of it, but we need the reminder every now and again. Yeah. So as you can see, the name of the podcast today is All the Ugly Parts. All of the ugly parts. And Gino, when I put that up, when I shared that with you, that I thought that we should talk about all the ugly parts. If I may ask, what was just like the first thing that came to your mind? Like what was the first thought that came into your mind? Just like
I'd say everything bad related to our relationship and business.
that's
And
what you thought.
whenever I hear the ugly parts, I think the ugly truth, and it's like the tough conversations and the tough conversations you have to have with yourself or that someone else is having with you, as
Hmm.
well as the difficult situations that you find yourself in that you then
Gotcha,
have to
gotcha.
work your way out of.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel that. And I think that we've all been there at some point in time in our lives before. I was thinking about this deeply. Like I said, I chose this topic tonight. I said, "Hey, babes, I want to talk about this tonight." And if anyone has had a deep enough conversation with me, you'll know that one of my favorite books is Atlas Shrugged. And I won't go into the philosophy behind Atlas
Mhm.
Shrugged, but I'll tell you about just the baseline of what was happening because I think it's kind of pertinent. Like this is not a synopsis of the book in any way, but just this one aspect of the book is important, and that aspect is that the 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 protagonist, Dagny Taggart, her goal, her mission was to build a railway system. So this is the United States of America before most of us were ever thought of, and the protagonist is working to build a railway system. And so she is based in New York, but she's encountering different challenges as she's working to build this railway system. And what struck me about that when I was thinking about that and writing this is that when you think of a train track, right? When you think of a train track has a starting point and it has an ending point, right? I'm not, in our relationship, Gino will tell you he's the one that's science. I will ask him the most random questions and he'll look at me like, did you attend a school? Like, did you do like basic grade school? I'm not science. I'm not into all the other extra stuff. But I know that for a train track, there's a starting point and there's an ending point.
Mhm.
And I think that for a lot of us, a train track is a really good representation of the most predictable aspects of our life, or rather, the most yeah, the most predictable aspects of our life. And so in this book, she's trying to build a train, a railway system from New York to the West Coast, and she's encountering all of these different challenges on the way. But what's pertinent to this discussion is that a train track has a starting point and an ending
Hmm.
point. And in that story, because it's a fiction story, but it's commentary, it's a social commentary book. In that story, she encounters challenges along the way as she's building this train track. And those challenges take her off the track, right? So a train track has a starting point and an ending point, but those challenges, they take her off the track. And when they take her off the track, she is very much tested, and
Hmm.
she is very much um, put through put through the fire. You know, she goes through it. And Gina, I know you read the book as well, right? She goes through
Right.
it. But what was but I think that train tracks, and I know this sounds so random, right?
Yes.
But you'll get it as we he says yes, you'll get it as we go through this discussion. Train tracks are the perfect analogy for this, because a train track represents the predictability of life. You have a start point, you have an end point, and for a lot of us, the life that we are very much guided on is very much like a train track. There's a starting point, there's an ending point, and we kind of figure that, hey, if we just stay on this track, we're going to get to that end point, right? Is that fair enough? Is that fair to say, Gino?
Yes. So you're
Okay.
saying that it's a bad thing to stay on a train track?
No, I'm not saying this is a bad thing to stay on the train track. I'm saying that I'm saying that like a train track is a path that you could take. Like you have a start point and an end point, and there's a predictability. And the beautiful part of it is, let's say this: if I'm booking a train tomorrow, I want to know that where intend to go is where I end up.
Right.
But what's interesting about life is that it is my belief. This is again just my belief system that a train track represents the most black and white version of your life.
Right. Your life is
Start
journey.
point,
Yeah.
pardon me.
Your life is journey. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the most black and white version of your life's journey. But this podcast is not for people who are trying to live a black and white life, a predictable life. This podcast is for people who want to dream in color. And I would venture to say that the minute you step off of the train track, the minute you whether you choose to step off, or you have been thrown off, or the train has been hijacked and somebody dragged you off, whatever it is, the minute you step off the train track, your life becomes more colorful.
Right. So,
Go ahead.
but what if we wanted to ride the train in color? I mean, isn't that possible?
Well,
Right.
so that's the interesting part, because the predictability of the train, right? The predictability of the tracks does not allow you. And
Hmm.
that's where we get to the ugly parts. The predictability of the train tracks does not allow you to experience the color and the richness of life. By its very nature, there's a start point, there's an end point, there may be some stops in between. Is predictable, is like clockwork. Trains, especially whether it's in Europe, here in the US, trains run on time. You can predict every aspect of that, but that's not real life. There's no aspect of real life that is as predictable as a train track. And so I thought about this deeply. I really did, and in writing this, because I said, the minute we step off the train track, the minute we start to explore the colorful side of life, it's no longer predictable. It's no longer comfortable. We are now in the unknown. And ironically, when we enter that unknown, only when we exit the train track, because remember, there's complete predictability. Think about it, you're growing up as a child, you're you're just on this track and you're just on your way. But until you step off the train track, my hypothesis is that you will never know yourself. And that the only way to figure out who it is you are, the only way it is to know yourself, to know your strength, to know your courage, to know your true ability, to live your full potential in color, is to step off the train track. I'm gonna pause because I know
I
I
hear
said a
you.
lot.
I agree with some aspects of that.
Hmm.
Um, I see it as it's just like a path as well.
Hmm.
Point A to point B. You know you're going somewhere, but you never know what can happen on the journey. Um, and yeah, with I see why you chose a train track because you know if you're leaving from here to go down the road, you know that you're gonna get down the road. So yeah, you're right. I was
Yeah,
trying to find something, but I couldn't find anything.
you were trying to poke holes in my theory.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's more because I'm just getting to the first, that's just the first part. That's the setup for it. Because what I want to get across is, and these are, guys, completely my thoughts, but I speak to so many people who have dreams, who have passion, who
Mhm,
have a drive, who want something for themselves and for their lives. And much like I was back then, the default expectation is that you're going to board a train
mhm.
and it's going to take you from that point A to that point B.
Right. So essentially,
And
that would be that you have your life all plotted out. I
it's
do
all
this, then I
plotted
do
out.
this, I do that. Okay.
Let me tell you, I drew a chart at 18 years old. I never forget it. I went into, I think it was HEB. I was in college, and I had a whole big poster board, and I literally drew a roadmap.
Hmm.
Like, didn't work out that way.
Right.
But but it was a useful experience. My thing is always have a plan, right?
Yeah.
But I think that when we talk about life, and when I speak to so many different people, the fears that I hear, and these were my own fears as well, is that, man, if I get thrown off this train track,
Hmm.
if I get thrown off the train, or if I have to take a detour, if I end up down this bad path,
Hmm.
then it's all over for me. Or I'm a failure. I'm a failure. I'm a washout. I'm not good
Yeah.
enough. And my theory and my personal experience, going back to Atlas Shrugged and just my own lived experience, is that it's only off the track that you actually have the ability to learn yourself, to grow, to build, to build the resilience, to build the courage, to build whatever it is you need to to finish your journey and get to where it is you want to be. You don't experience that on the train track because the train is just moving, right?
Right. But I believe that you got to stop now and again. There'll be those obstacles in the way. And you could also find yourself in those times, right? By
Yeah,
overcoming those obstacles. And then you hop back on a train because you know where it's going, right?
because you know where you're going, exactly. And I think that's a good point you made. You have to know where you're going. But what I want to get across here is that, because I've had a couple conversations in the past few weeks, particularly with young ladies or just women in general, and
Hmm.
I think the resounding theme is that, when we get thrown off that train track,
Hmm.
what we tend to put up on, as we say in the Caribbean, are the ugly parts of ourselves. And this is women and
Right.
men. We
Hmm.
tend to put up on what we would consider the ugly parts of ourselves, the growing, the challenge, the testing, all of the worst parts of ourselves.
This
We
toxic
don't
part.
find that in the carriage, kick
Yeah.
back looking at the views. We find that off the track. We find that in the rubble. We
Hmm.
find that in all of the circumstances and all of the challenges that we
Right.
encounter. And I'll say this, that a lot of times when I talk to people, and I think, I don't know how you guys do it as men, but as
Mhm.
women, many times we will, when we are cool, when you find another woman and y'all vibing, like,
Mhm.
you tend to get a bit more vulnerable. And I've had women
Same for
tell
men.
me, pardon me.
It's the same thing for men. Same way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've had women tell me things about themselves that they just absolutely hate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember, I can recall a situation or two, and I'm just like, I was shocked. I was astounded, because, like, the thing this person hated about herself is the part this person hated about herself is the part that I found to be just so spectacular, right?
Yep.
And or so brilliant. And I put that caveat in there because I feel like a lot of times we just going on that journey, the people we meet on that journey, the people we meet on that train, they sometimes, some people, if they have enough influence over us,
Mhm.
the parts of ourselves that we believe are ugly, we have actually been told are ugly. It's not that these are actually ugly parts of us. It's just that, we have been made to believe that these are not the best parts of ourselves. And so,
Yes. And
mhm,
it's sometimes in our head as well. Like a lot of times. Like what we
I
think,
agree.
yeah, like what we think are the ugly parts to us, other people find attractive, right? So I think it's both cases. One where you have people telling you not directly, is usually indirectly, and then you infer, and then
Mhm.
I think that is compounded as well, and it doesn't really help. But yeah.
Yeah. And so, like I said, this is short. I just felt it was important to say that those ugly parts
Mhm.
that we believe are just the worst things about ourselves, those experiences, that failed business, that lost job, that friendship that fell apart, that
The
marriage
skill you're
that
not
didn't
good
work
at.
out. What'd you say?
The skill you're not good at.
The skill that you just think you absolutely suck at.
Hmm.
All of the things that you consider the most ugly parts of yourself, they're not. They are first of all, they are the seeds of your success,
Hmm.
and they are the lessons. Because what we tend to do, I'll say this, what we tend to do is, when we experience when we have a quote unquote ugly experience, which is 9 out of 10 times some teachable moment that was sent our way to make us better, to make us stronger, what we
Right.
tend to want to do is to throw away that ugly part. We want to hide it. We go and we want to delete any remnants of the quote unquote ugliness.
Hmm.
And I think it's so important to say that when you throw away the quote unquote ugly part, you're also
Hmm.
throwing away the lesson. So you
Hmm.
can't throw away the ugly parts of yourself. You have to hold on to them. You have to appreciate them. You have to, like, find a way to fall in love with them.
Okay.
Remember that, as you said, most of them are in your head. Many of them are in your head. Some of
Hmm.
them are based on someone else's opinion that they have now programmed you to believe. but
Hmm.
but the parts of yourself that you find to be the ugliest, those are the parts that you should be you should be looking deeper into. You should be saying, what is the lesson here? What is it
Right.
I can take away here? Yeah, I'm evangelizing tonight, guys. Sorry, but go ahead.
You're doing a good job too, babes. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. And so I'd say that we tend to get fixated. It is our nature. It is just the way the universe think of filters. When I'm posting, I got my little filter on. We tend to focus on projecting the most, and we spoke about this before, the most manicured, the most
Yeah.
glamorous, the most ideal version of ourselves. And we try to run from the ugly parts. But the ugly parts are what make us human. The ugly parts are what make us capable of empathy. The ugly parts are what make not just our experiences rich, but that enriching our input into whatever area, whatever thing it is we're doing. You know, I had a conversation with with my aunt the other day, and she was commenting on the fact that, you hear that a lot of comedians, they actually maybe dealt with a lot of trauma or
Mhm.
etc, and they have found a way to channel that ugliness into their work to make people laugh, to create joy.
All right. So, a question for you. What were the ugly parts in the Sheeta Licks you got on a court a while ago?
What are we talking about? What are the ugly parts in the sheet of leagues we got in the court? The ugly
Yeah.
parts of
What's the
what?
lesson
So
in
so
that?
for context, guys, since we just putting it out there. For context, we went to the gym tonight and we played a couple games of basketball. I lost all of them, quite terribly, and we got into a bit of a micro argument thereafter, and it was heated as things usually get. But go ahead. I just needed to give them context so that we can you can
All right. No, I
go forward.
just want to know, in your opinion, what was the lesson in all of that, in that ugly part of the night?
For me, I think the lesson was communicate better, because I wasn't feeling as good. Like, I thought that I had communicated that well. I'm going, and my body feels a bit run down. I haven't been taking any vitamins, and I had the little injury with my foot. And I'm not, guys, I'm
Yeah.
not miss excuses. That's not how I live. Like, I'm very accountable. But I felt like you were playing somewhat aggressive tonight, and I
Yeah.
didn't
On my end,
understand.
guys, so I don't, I think we had this conversation before where I told
Mm,
you I don't see you as a regular woman. Like, in my mind,
right.
you're like super Tahira. And so sometimes I can be a bit aggressive.
He was playing me like I was like a 6'5" dude that just missed the NBA.
Right. But
Like,
the lesson in that is that even if it's one on one, like, you gotta be ready for the games. I'm not,
that, are you giving me my lesson?
no, I'm just saying the lesson in that is that when you're playing with actual people, then they're gonna defend you like I did.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. And I think the bigger lesson for me is in that, because the track that I was trying to be on was, I was trying to go to the gym, finish up, get a nice little couple games of 1v1 in so I could work on my shot,
Mm-hmm.
and come home and record the podcast. And Gino's mission was different. His mission was to blow me out and to not let me get a shot off, and to play me like I was playing in a real life scrimmage at like the NBA combine or something. Like, the man was all over me, and not in a sexual way at all. Like, he was, yeah, it was a lot. But I think the lesson for me in that, my biggest takeaway is, yo, just like work, you know what it is, you got to work on your conditioning. Like, you're not the you may want to go on the court and shoot around and hit some shots and what's not, but in a real game you got to be conditioned. So work on your
All right.
conditioning so that you can defend, and you can drive in the paint and not be gasping for breath. So that was my lesson.
Wow.
Yeah,
That was a lot.
it was a lot. It was a
Yeah.
lot. That was real talk. But I think it was an important question, and I think that this is what I wanted to take away, what I want anyone listening to this to take away
Mhm.
from the conversation tonight, is that, like, don't hide the ugliest parts of yourself, and don't feel like, you set out on this train track, and you book your ticket on this train, and you ready to go, and now this thing is just all late, or they stopping somewhere that they weren't supposed to stop, or they have some mechanical failure and now you got to get
Mhm.
off the train and go down a different path. Like, don't.
But question, why do you think we hide the ugly parts of ourselves and not?
Well, I think we hide the ugly parts of ourselves because society as a whole has made it like ugly, like the fact that we're even calling it the quote unquote ugly parts. They are actually the beautiful parts.
Mhm.
There's nothing that I can look at my life today and say I have accomplished it that I cannot trace back directly to a very difficult moment in my life. There's
That is
no
true. That
level
is
of
true.
success I have ever experienced. There's no win, there's no W I have ever earned that I cannot trace directly back to a major failure. Like, the ugly parts are what make you, but we don't talk about that, and our school systems aren't designed to promote that type of philosophy
Right.
anyway.
And something that I've noticed over the years, in conversation, in business, or in your personal lives, we tend to stray away from anything that's unattractive, that's ugly. It's a
Mhm.
difficult conversation. But
Yeah,
as to
we
what you
want to be
said,
perceived as perfect.
yes, and not being offended in some way. Like I use an example from this week. Um, an ugly thing is so be direct. Like earlier up in our relationship, I would always refer to it as the ugly truth, where
Mhm,
you're just harsh and you
mhm,
just say what's on your mind. But
mhm,
you got to be careful with the ugly parts as it relates to communication in your relationships, guys. The reason
mhm,
why I'm mentioning this is because the power of something that's ugly, especially the ugly truth, is that
mhm,
it's a truth and it hurts because it's true. And so you got to be careful about what it is you say and how you say it. And I
mhm.
think you, Tahira, you've done like I trust me. I'm still not the best at that, but you have been very instrumental in terms of like changing my perspective as it relates to that. Because you know me, early on, it was just like XYZ, this and that's that.
Mhm,
But you're like, this flower is pretty, and let's go here, and this is
mhm,
what you need to work on. But
mhm,
yeah, so um, all of those things, guys, help to strengthen bonds in relationships. Like Tahira said, is the reason why we avoid them because they're ugly. Nobody wants to talk about them, but
mhm,
um, those are those are the things that where we find the actual lessons, right? So I strongly recommend that we not or we don't ever as uncomfortable as it may seem. And I know she's watching me and she's judging me because she probably knows what I'm thinking about. But as uncomfortable as it may seem, it's important that you always go out and you find a lesson in that. No, don't hide it away or lock it away like she mentioned earlier, right?
mhm.
There's always a
Yeah,
lesson to be learned.
there's always a lesson to be learned, and I think that
Drats.
you said drats.
Yeah.
What?
Here we go. You're right again. Let's go.
I don't intend to be right. I'll say, this that was you took an interesting angle there, Gino, because what you were talking about is how you communicate with people who maybe they are going or they are experiencing some ugly thing in their life. And I
Hmm.
think that there's this thought process in society that's like, just give the harsh unvarnished truth and you just hold
Yeah.
that. And I
Let them
agree with
have it.
that. I agree with that to an extent. I agree with that
Hmm.
when somebody has demonstrated an inability to take a hint when all other efforts to just communicate in
Mm-hmm.
a calm and nuanced manner fail. Now you just got to take the harsh truth because you
Mm-hmm.
don't can't get a clue, right? And I have been on the receiving end of that before. I shared it in previous podcasts where I have had to deal with hearing hard truths about myself even
Mm-hmm.
when I didn't want to, because when
Yeah.
people were trying to tell me about myself, I wasn't listening. So now you got to get it. Now you got to be crying. But I think that it's important that when someone is just kind of first experiencing that their issues are, you see them going through something, you see them going through that ugly period, you see them living and struggling through the ugly parts. It's important that you don't feel like this is your time now to jump up and parade, because this is what some people do. I'm on the
Parade how?
train,
Parade to help or
parade
parade?
and say, I'm on the train. Look at me. Bye. You off the train. You struggling.
Oh,
This what
that's
you need to
definitely
do.
not
You
where I
gotta
thought
grab
you were
your
going with this.
suitcase and start running, and just being super judgmental and naughty, instead of just like, hey, like I know that you're not on the train right now, and I know that you missed that track, and I know that things have gone awry, but here's the light in this situation. And me personally, I always try to find the good, the positive in every
Okay, good.
situation. So
Well said. Because I was about to say, jump up on somebody when you're down, kick them. Nah,
yeah, no,
but
that's not
yeah.
that's not a thing. And the minute, but you see, it's hard for people to not be it's hard for a lot of people to not be judgmental when they see someone they love or someone they care about going through those ugly parts, because we have been conditioned in
Mm-hmm.
many ways to believe that failure, that falling short, all of these things are bad,
Mm-hmm.
catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, I can tell you, I've stated this before, my entire life changed the minute I became completely comfortable with failing, with looking like a fool. Just mash up the shame box completely. Just be like, yo, whatever happened happened.
True.
My only goal is to learn what I need to learn from this life, from this path that is off whatever the track is. My only goal
Mhm.
is to learn it and take it and use it and grow from it and get to where it is I'm going. And the minute I started to personally embrace the ugly parts of myself and see them as beautiful things to learn from, beautiful things to hold on to, beautiful things to adjust how I operate, life just felt different. And I
Correct.
think that reframing is very important, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation tonight, because there are a lot of people who are right now dealing with failure, dealing with struggles, dealing with all manner of bullshit, and they feel like that ugliness is a stain on them. They feel like that
Mhm.
ugliness defines them. They feel like they can't grow from that. But I just want to say, like, the ugly parts are the best parts, and the ugly parts are where you become the best version of yourself, and you
Right.
grow, and you get to where it is you want to be. So don't throw those ugly parts away. Use them. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, that's 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 pretty much my spiel tonight. Like, this is a short and sweet
Honestly.
podcast. We're traveling next week, so we're gonna have to record again on Tuesday,
Mm.
before we travel. But yeah, I think the moral of the story is, don't hide the ugly parts of yourself, and don't feel like just because you get thrown off the track, because this anybody that is in business or that is open to a unique perspective on life, I strongly recommend you read
Yeah.
Atlas Shrugged, and you will see how being thrown off the train track, in some cases literally so, really created a beautiful future for the protagonist in the story,
Yeah.
you know?
And my final piece, I'd say, like, it's when you're in it, it's difficult to see that it's an ugly part. It more looks like courage, or this is a good characteristic.
Mhm.
Um, Be thankful if you have people in your life who can tell you otherwise, who can look at you, and if you don't see it, can tell you that it's an ugly part. And if that's the case, you need to think about it long and hard and start to fix it. All right, don't ignore it, because as Tahirah has been saying all night, is that the lesson is in the ugly parts of your life.
Yeah, the lessons are there, and I think that is because there are two types of ugly parts. There the ugly parts that you think are ugly, but they're actually beautiful. And then there are the ugly parts that actually need adjustment. Yeah. And what you were just referring to are those parts that need adjustment. And that as an individual, you can't just overlook that, just gloss over it and throw it away and just be like, yeah, whatever. Because you'll keep living that cycle again and again if you do.
Correct.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that's it for tonight. We are so happy you joined us. This was episode 8 of the Dreaming in Color podcast. And we just want to encourage you again to not only dream your wildest dreams, but to don't be afraid to step off the track, jump off that train, no backpack, nothing, and go and venture into life. Go in and challenge yourself and put yourself into the most colorful and unique and trying situations and surprise yourself. See how you come out of that. I promise you'll be stronger, you'll be better. We as humans, we were built to survive. We were built to survive. And you can and will survive any ugliness that shows up in your life, and you will grow from it, you will learn from it, you will be better for it, and the world will be better because of that gift that you receive from all of those ugly parts.
Right. And I gotta leave you guys with an analogy. So I recently found out that babies, you're not supposed to feed them soft food. You're supposed to give them something that's well, you can feed them soft food, but you should also introduce hard foods as well, when they have a few teeth in your mouth, because it helps to build their jaw, their strength, and everything. So cucumbers, that kind of stuff. And it's the exact same thing. A lot of the failures that we've had in life, we learn from them and we grow, and it toughens us. So like you said, humans were designed to be tough, right? So I thought that was extremely important. Yeah. Thanks, Tahirah.
Yeah. We're designed to overcome. We were made to conquer. You were made to conquer. Thank you, guys. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Peace.
All right. See you guys.